Bizim için en başından beri eğlence çok yok ama modları gereği biraz eğleniyorduk. Full tryout gitmeye devam edeceğiz.
Cũng như lúc đầu khi mình đánh giá thì đội nào là đội mạnh nhất thì mình cũng đã nói đó là đội Thổ Nhĩ Kỳ. Thì không biết tại sao khi ngày mai lại bắt buộc phải đối đầu với họ thì điều này cũng chắc là cũng phải cố gắng hết sức mình thôi, tại vì đây cũng là đội mình đánh giá là mạnh nhất.
I feel that Japan wasn't the favorite coming to the event, but I don't know, I think everything can happen. If Japan is the first seed, I think maybe we can beat them.
そうですね。やっぱりそのスタンスとして楽しもうっていう気持ちは変わりなくて、僕たちが残ったのは結構なんか気楽に楽しんでやろうっていう気持ちが逆に勝利につながっているとそう思っているので、そうですね。決勝トーナメントも楽しむことを第一にやりたいですね。
Eskisi gibi değil şu an Uzak Doğu Asya. Ama şu anki Ice takımlarından daha iyidir eminim. Bakalım küçümsemeyi planlamıyoruz.
全て勝ってオールスターの本戦に出ることですね。
Mình mong đợi là mọi người sẽ đoàn kết hơn và cùng nhau cố gắng là giành chiến thắng này, giống như là chiến thắng này cũng là cách tốt nhất mà tặng cho tất cả mọi người đang ủng hộ tụi mình mà thôi.
Hello and welcome to International Wildcard All-Stars, coming to you live from Barcelona, Spain. Team Fire has scorched through the first 3 days, melting Team Ice down until only one team remained. Now on Championship Sunday, 4 regions will be battling it out to earn their spot alongside the Korean and North American heavyweights in All-Stars next week. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daniel Sifa Dracos, joined at the desk by G2's Alfonso Mithi Aguirre Rodriguez, Richard Pulse Cam, I'm going to butcher it every time, my friend, and Andrew Vedius Day. Glad to have you guys here for finals days. Are you ready for some best of threes?
I was born ready, boy.
So ready.
All
Wow.
the ready.
All right.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought I was feeling enthusiastic. Apparently, you guys are ready to play here. Now, of course, yesterday we did enter the Wild West of One for All. It was absolutely insane, some of the things we saw.
It was super fun. We saw the Lee Sin come out. We saw the Zac come out. We even saw Yasuo versus Jarvan. What more could you ask for a day of One for All?
I mean, I could have asked you predictive, right? When you told me that Yasuo
Yeah, all
was
right.
going to win.
When we saw Zac, we saw how dirty Zac was as a champion, but then we saw more fun champions like Jarvan and Yasuo. The interaction between those two champions was hilarious. I was casting this game as well, where it's just like, you were never safe as Corki, because you might just get blasted on the opposite side of the map by two-shot barrages.
And of course, our favorite part was the single AP Ezreal. All the Ezreal ults looked exactly the same, so there was just like, okay, is this the one that's going to kill me, or is this the one that's going to do 20
Everyone
damage?
had to flash out.
Oh my god, oh my god. Ezreal roulette to its true form.
Exactly. Of course, when all was said and done, however, here is how the chips fell. We'll start off by taking a look at Team Fire. You can see them at the top there. Turkey coming in 4-0. Japan 4-0 as well, but Turkey owning the head-to-head because of their excellent performance in the 1v1s, getting a 4-1 score overall compared to Japan's 3-2. Southeast Asia rounding it out, and Brazil's CB Law, a similar story, taking into account those 1v1 scores.
Yeah, Japan and Turkey coming in as very powerful teams from what we've seen so far. Looking forward to seeing how they do later on in the day, but Team Fire have had an outstanding performance throughout this tournament.
Team Fire, I think, clearly the more dominant squad, but of course we do still have one seed coming in on the opposite side from Team Ice, and this was kind of a rough set of first few days from Team Ice.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the teams just in general did not stack up how we expected them to, especially CIS, a team who everyone had a lot of hopes for. You look at these players who have been to Worlds and took on the best, and they just couldn't do anything in these fun game modes. In the 1v1s, also disappointed. Oceania went, what, 1-9 over the weekend, so didn't go so well for the Ice squad.
And of course, for those of you confused, you can see 1-3 is the match score, but we did have an extra 1v1 win coming in from Latin America South, though that is what gave them the edge and allowed them to come in to the tournament today. However, that is now said and done. The teams have qualified. Let's zero in on what we have today. Coming up first, of course, is going to be Japan, Fire's second seed versus Latin America South, Ice first and only seed. Later in the day, we'll see Turkey play up against Southeast Asia, the first Fire seed versus the third Fire seed. And of course, the winners of both of those matches will face each other in one final bout. Matches will be a best of 3, but an interesting best of 3 at that. It'll be Summoner's Rift in Game 1, Assassin's Mode in Game 2, and a best of 5 set of 1v1s if needed to get that also coveted win.
And news announcement, this is how all best of 3s will be played for the future. No, no, but I think it's a fun way to play the best of 3. It means that not only will you be relying on your ability to play as a team, but you've also got to be able to adapt to the assassin meta that we have seen growing over time. So.
Well, and of course, over the course of this tournament, each of these teams has gotten to try their hands at these game modes, so there's nothing new here, but we did see a lot of different results going in, and you can see some of those on your screen now, the wins and losses. Interesting, you know, Latin America South coming in with Summer's Rift win, Southeast Asia falling just a little bit flat. In fact, 2 Latin America South, but overall, Turkey and Japan looking pretty confident, taking just about everything.
Yeah, pretty much. And the great thing about this analyst desk, I think it's perfect because we all have a speciality in each one of these game modes. So, of course, Miffy likes the traditional 5v5s, Assassins, of course, Katarina mainly, and then 1v1. So we're good to go.
We're perfectly rounded deck. And I just get to stand here and say things to make you guys talk. So it's, I don't know what my skill is.
That's the ideal dream.
I'm the one girl. Of course, let's start in on our first match of the day. It will be Latin America South versus Japan. And going in, Japan looking undefeated, where Latin America South a little bit hit and miss.
It was actually great to see how Japan evolved over the tournament because coming in, it was just like, we've got these clear top 2 teams. Japan maybe a 3rd, 4th place team, perhaps breaking into those top 2. They just swept everyone under the rug. They destroyed everyone in every game mode. You heard Saros just like, we came in with the mantra of just having fun, but apparently that means dumpster everybody at everything.
Yeah, and Saros especially, right? This guy that, I mean, has been kind of a famous international mid laner for some of his more creative picks, but not necessarily for his, you know, excellence in play across the board, but it was Vel'Koz, it was Diana, it was all these insane picks that he busted out that were really monumental and pretty impressive for the team overall.
He's been very enjoyable to watch. I mean, the fact that he's been bringing out so many unique picks and he's been able to make it work in a mid lane meta that after talking to Mithy and after talking to some other pros that have a good understanding of what's going on right now, Vel'Koz shouldn't really fit, but Saros is doing a great job of making it work.
Well, Mithy, let's hear it from you since Vel'Koz, are we going to see it today?
I think it's very likely that we see it since it worked out well for him last time, but I feel like once you start playing against better opponents that make less mistakes, Vel'Koz can get abused quite easily. He obviously is very strong, and once you get like that level 6 and you just like get that laser going, you know, you can one-shot the whole enemy team if they're all lined up, but at the end of the day, it has a lot of flaws that you can abuse, and it's not really a safe pick at all.
Yeah, well, speaking of unsafe picks, War Angelus, the man down in the bottom lane, did bust out Vayne in his first game. And while he did make a lot of hero plays to carry his team through, we were equally skeptical of the Vayne pick.
Yeah, I mean, I still stand to the saying where Vayne is not really a good champ right now because the meta is evolving into a more lane-centered meta where if you get the first tower, you can get like such a huge advantage by just moving up your resources a bit more further into the enemy team and just snowballing the game across that. So it just feels like Vayne is not a laning phase pick, but if you pick Vayne and you get a kill on the enemy bot lane at level 2, then the Vayne pick works, you know?
And to echo on that sentiment, this is something that we're looking a lot at when it comes from Latin America South because
here it is.
Have they really been actually tested as a team? Because I feel like when you're going to grace a Vayne with this many advantages in the early game, you're pretty much setting up your team for success from the get-go. So I feel like that Latin America South, for me, are still to prove themselves. And when you look across the board, when they're going up against this powerhouse of Japan, I feel like that they are definitely going to struggle. And I mean, I'm predicting that Japan will take this 2-0.
It'll be interesting to see, of course. One final thing, though, on the bot lane. Mithy, we've seen Vayne, we've seen a lot of creative picks. In this new meta, is there anything that we haven't seen yet or anything that you think we will see as teams get more comfortable in 6.23?
Well, I have tried to talk to some of these teams here, and no one really is interested in seeing Zyra, even though from the experience I've had playing in the new patch, I feel like Zyra is still a very strong champion. So I would love to see some teams picking Zyra as a last pick, because now that you can blind pick your mid lane mage, your top lane tank, you can like kind of save the last pick for support, and that's what I love, right? Because you can just pick like the Soraka, the Zyra, all these like niche champs, and Zyra now has counter picks, same as like a lot of other supports. Zyra, like the MF that we saw in Korea, is still very popular against Zyra, but if you have the last pick, if you have the purple side, I really feel it's a good champion, and especially against Vayne. Vayne can't walk through all your plans.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see. Maybe we'll see the Vayne, maybe the Vel'Koz, maybe the Zyra coming out as an answer to some of those picks, but that's enough from us. The teams are almost ready for the Rift, so now let's send it back over to the casters.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Sifa. Hey, esports fans, how are you doing today? Coming to you from Barcelona, I'm Devin Pyrotechnics Young, and of course, joining me on the desk is Indiana FLICKR in black. We're going to bring you the calls as we kick the tournament off that will decide the winner of IWCA and fill the final spot in next week's All-Star event.
Yeah, and there was a lot of explosive talk on the desk, you know, waiting names like Saros, like Wara. We've got incredible, talented players across every single position in this match. But I really want to talk about the dynamics of where these two teams are kind of mismatched. So on one side, we talked about Wara. You know, he came into this tournament through proxy vote, showcased that he has the hyper mechanics, that the team will build the Protect the Vayne comp around him, and he goes off. And even when Latin America South fell down in their assassin mode game, particularly against Japan, it was still Wara that was kind of leading the charge and had a pretty good KDA to his name when all was said and done. If you look at the other side on Japan, they have Heredi as their AD carry. Now, Heredi isn't necessarily known as the strongest AD carry. In fact, if I'm going to pick a weak link for Japan, I am going to look right there. So there are options for Latin America South to kind of exploit them.
Absolutely. It's kind of like a bit lopsided when back and forth, and we'll see a lot of map control like kind of being taken that way, I'm imagining. But let's go ahead and take a look at the All-Stars we'll be seeing on the Rift today, starting with the representatives from Latin America South. Up in the top lane, it is Helior. In the jungle, it will be Kletos. Mid lane, Plugo. ADC, that is Wara, also known as Warangelis. And his support, Bear.
And their opponents from Japan's LJL. In the top lane, it's Evie. This guy is a superstar. In the jungle, it's Tussle from Rampage. Mid is going to be Saros. AD carry is Heredi. And support also from Rampage is Dara.
Absolutely, and talk about a dominating squad. They have not dropped a single match here, only a couple of 1v1s, and honestly that can spell the difference. It's one of the reasons that they're not the #1 seed, despite the fact that they tied on match wins with Turkey. On the other hand, it's a tough game for Latin America South. However, they haven't played a traditional 5v5 against the Japanese squad just yet, just assassins.
Yeah, and you have two very different metas and mentalities kind of coming into this tournament. Japan, you know, you heard it in the interview, they're here to have fun, and that's kind of been the key to a lot of their success. And it's actually just amazing watching them across the Rift, particularly Tussle and Dara. That's who I want people to pay attention to. These guys are teammates in the LJL. They both play on Rampage, and you can see kind of the cross-map communication. So when the LJL allows those two to team up, that's when success really blooms across the map.
Yeah, it's been huge for them, and they've come up massive in a lot of the games so far we've seen. So we are about to hit into picks and bans, and that's an Orianna off the board. Latin America South on the blue side.
That is
on the right.
The Saros respect right there. But I also had a few theories. I actually felt that Orianna, as we moved more into the Courage of the Colossus meta, that Orianna would suddenly become the most high priority mid laner, since we should assume to see Syndra and Ryze permabanned. Just because she offers great protection for hyper carries that can shred those tanks. She has great 1v1 individual matchups in the mid lane, and she can actually put out sustained damage over the course of the fight to whittle the tanks down.
Going further in the picks and bans, we have the Karma taken off the board. We already talked about the Cinder being something that has pretty much persisted in power for a while, and there's that Trundle ban on Team Ice's side.
Yeah, already starting to see the meta develop a little bit. Obviously, again, Courage of the Colossus is the new thing in vogue. Trundle works very well against those tank champions that have really started to dominate the top lane, and I especially like to see the respect of Tom Kinch taken away.
You normally see that being thought of as a support, but no, you don't. Evie is the one who's been dominating on that one. LeBlanc is the last ban for Japan, and of course we will see a quick lock-in of Poppy for Helior.
But this does mean that Ryze is still open and available into that mid lane. Now, again, Saros did take Vel'Koz. He is known as primarily an innovator, but I expect that most mid laners would be able to look through that rotation and find that champion in the wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'll bet that Saros will want to take the last pick here and get the counter up against Plugo. It's a matchup that definitely should go his way, so he may be fine with just taking a skill-based matchup, and you can see they're focusing more on picking Heredi, something he's comfortable with, getting tussled at Lee Sin.
Okay,
there's the Ryze.
Yeah, we're going quick and fast through this. Key things to point out, we got Heredi on a utility AD carry. Again, Wara is going to be your high mechanical AD carry. Heredi is going to be your utility, so the Ashe fits perfectly for him there. Tussle on the Lee Sin, that's the big thing. This is the guy that you want to watch. He's a very proactive jungler. He is the best jungler in his region, and he's looking across from the best jungler in the Latin America South region in Kletos. And Kletos is known for his Rek'Sai. So again, if Tussle is your aggressive jungler, Kletos is completely the opposite. He's your dandy type of jungler. You know, vision, control-oriented.
Yeah, get in, steal something, and get out. And buff control is going to be very, very important, I think, in this game. Well, Tussle, true to his name, he does like to get in the thick of it and mix things up with the action. A lot of power, though, with that rise that Plugo is taking in the mid lane. And here we go. The Nautilus lock-in for Evie here. Or it could be supported. Well, not anymore, because it's an All-Star. Never mind.
It's Dara's All-Star. He is very well known for this back in his region. This is terrifying for him to get his hands on it. And we heard Mithy talking on the desk. Why is Vayne not as high of a priority? Mithy was theorizing it's because she has a weak lane phase. The meta is still very much about who can control the lane, especially the creep minions. But if you're opening up more tank supports, if you're bringing in more melee supports like the Alistar, it does give room for Vayne to shine and to find some counterplay and matchups. So Wara has the option here. There's the Janna. I'm looking for the Vayne.
Likely to happen. Ezreal, though, still considered an option. We won't see if that gets locked in just yet. It does. So that's paired a very safe pick. And Wara is the hyper carry of this team. They're going to want him to be pumping out that damage late, so they're not wanting to put him in any danger early on.
Yeah, talking to the team, they said that they were totally comfortable building around Wara, that they knew his identity going into this tournament. He is the hyper carry of their region. We expected the Vayne to come out because he's very comfortable, but like you said, the respect. You've got Dara on his coveted Alistar pick. You've got the ultimate from Nautilus coming in, as well as the Ash Arrow. He's not going to gamble that many times with that many hard CC, so he looks for the very safe, very self-sufficient pick in Ezreal.
Absolutely. So Japan just shuffling around for a little bit as the last picks come in finally. We had that Cassiopeia locked in for Seros. Cassie versus Ryze. We've seen that one quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's going to be mostly about who's going to get the dominant lane shove in there. But before we kind of talk about the mid lane matchup, again, just kind of collectively looking at these compositions, it's still very much about kind of creating area of effect in Latin America South sides and protecting Wara and allowing him to output that crazy amount of damage that Ezreal can do late game. On the other side, it's about your layering CC and having multiple engage options for the LJL.
Absolutely, and if they can land it all, I mean, there's only so many ways to get out of danger. Ryze, Ezreal, those are going to be the big linchpins there for LAS in this 5v5.
But that's a lot of pressure on Plugo, and he is looking across some Seros, kind of one of the crown jewels of the LJL. He's known as the FLICKR of Japan, so certainly a tough opponent, and he's going to really need to utilize every facet of Ryze's power to beat that 1v1 matchup in mid.
Yeah, well, they faced off in Assassin's mode already, and, that one went very one-sided towards Japan's way, but, it's a different matchup. Everyone's not going to just be blowing up everyone, not right away. We need some time for the Ryze, the Cassiopeia, the Ezreal. They're all going to scale up, and, of course, this is going to be a very explosive match once we get to there, but I'm also paying a lot of attention to the jungle and seeing where Kratos, where Tussle end up. Now, if you guys think that Latin America South can pull out the victory here in game number 1, tweet us at LOL Esports, hashtag LASwin. And on the other side, if you think the Japanese Titans are going to take this one, hashtag JPNWin, also at LOL Esports. This is game number 1. This is the 5v5 matchup. We've had a lot of fun, but this one is all serious.
Serious indeed. Japan currently undefeated right now. Of course, through proxy did take second because of their 1v1 votes comparatively to Turkey, but this is huge for them. The region recently injected, a lot of structure and support into the scene, bringing in more imported players. The fact that we've got 2 Koreans on this roster in Dara and Tussle, even though it's kind of the for fun tournament and they came in here saying we're just going to have fun, that's going to be our key to success, it would mean a ton for this region. One who newly acquired their server recently to kind of make a splash on the international stage.
I think that's a really important thing. These guys have been playing without a local server, so they tend to play, on the Korean server up against some of the big boys there. And this is such a meteoric rise of this region. If they can make it to All-Stars through this tournament, it's big for them.
And then on the other side, you have a very similar storyline. Latin America South at IWC and IWCQ, they took second both times. Last time that they were at All-Stars, they did manage to take third, so there wasn't any expectations for the Latin America squads either. So for them to make it out of their group, for them to have this opportunity to look towards the finals, I mean, Japan's standing in their path, but it's also been quite an underdog story.
Absolutely, and it's kind of an interesting mix of players as well. You have a couple of newcomers coming in, right? Like you've got Plugo, who is very much this kind of rookie player, and they're facing off against some of their more experienced foes as we get this game started and underway.
So I really want to point out where the junglers are starting in the map right now. You've got Kratos who's starting on his red buff, and then you have Tussle who's starting on the top side red buff. Now what's interesting about Kratos' pathing is he's actually going to hit level 3 off the Krugs, as will Tussle, but Rek'Sai, we all know her very famous for her ability to bot side gank from blue side in particular. So there aren't a lot of options because he's got an Ezreal and a Janna down there, but I'm kind of curious, you know, is he going to prioritize Scuttle Crab, or is he going to look for this bottom lane gank to try to get this Ezreal and Janna started on the right foot?
He's definitely going to apply some pressure. I don't know how far forward Heredi and Dar will be comfortable playing. You could see a huge amount of chunk damage coming out. Heredi has been pushed back very far, and Wara is just going to keep him at bay here.
And this is what happens when you're punished by picking a melee support like that Alistar. Ezreal, if he can get on the back of the caster creeps, you can see how punishing he'll be with that Mystic Shot in tandem with Janna's E.
Yeah, so Wara is already playing this out very aggressive. Imagine if he'd gone for the Vayne pick as Kratos moves down towards the bottom and looking to get the counter jungling on. He will steal it away, and Tussle's still up top side.
Yeah, we've already seen some divergence then. The fact that Rek'Sai is just moving a bit quicker through this jungle, although Tussle should be running straight for his blue buff, so if Kratos can't take this away quickly enough, he's got Smite.
He's going to be coming around the side. Kratos is able to steal this one away. Tussle actually doesn't know it's happening, but he's going to be chasing down Plugo instead, who gets nailed on the Sonic Wave in an instant flash. Respect out of Plugo.
Hold on, though. Here comes Kratos.
Oh, right out of the bushes.
Yeah,
and
rocking
he's
hard
flash.
place.
Whoa, that's going to force Tussle to flash away too. Great start here for Kratos.
But naturally, having Plugo missing both summoners is going to be advantageous for Japan in the end. That was both the Ghost and the Flash on the mid laner. Low mobility. Yes, Rise has a lot of safety on him because he's fairly tanky. He's hard to lock down, but we'll see if Japan can punish that. And did you catch if Rise was taking Courage of the Colossus Mastery?
I do not believe so. We saw a couple of Courage of the Colossi, if you will, but it was on Dara, it was on Evie, which is to be expected, and I believe it was just on Kratos. I didn't see one on Plugo's side, but maybe we'll get that one back up in a minute.
I was just curious. Typically, it's common for Rise to take Storm Raider Surge or Thunderlords, but Russia has actually been playing Rise with Courage of the Colossus on the Mastery.
Well, we used to see Strength of the Ages on him every now and again, too.
It's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, that is a pretty good mastery. Let's just go with that. Tussle's backing away in River. Scuttlecry Vision helping out there. Wara and Bear will take their first back. We're only 4 minutes into this game. No serious leads. Up in the top, it has been a wet noodle fight. Star Guardian Poppy up against the Nautilus, who sent to the Riptide. Hillier's a little bit lower. He shouldn't have been fighting in those minions.
But it's still kind of a tempo advantage for... I don't want to... Yeah, I'm going to call it for Latin America South. And the reason why is because I feel like they got good back timers off, particularly with their bottom lane. Again, Ezreal, he's not weaker on the initial level 1. He's only weaker when he goes back, gets his tier, and then he doesn't have that battle discrepancy. But because they forced it back so early, Ashe is only going to come back with a longsword as opposed to sitting in the lane and competing with, you know, tier versus BF sword. So I still feel like they've got at least a little bit of tempo control here.
Yeah, it's definitely looking good for Latin America South because when you have a double tier comp, you of course want to like let that kind of ride here. And Kratos, he's actually getting Tussle's number. He might be able to steal this Scuttle Crab away. He's actually going to move forward, tunnels, and yeah, he does not pick it up, unfortunately, but Tussle is now on top of him. 4 versus level 4, gets the knock up, unburrowed, and Tussle's not going to take that fight, but Evie was coming in. They were looking to scrap.
Shield coming in, and a lot of people kind of forget the interactions between Rek'Sai and Lee Sin. When he goes to proc in his Q, she can disrupt that if she times her unburrow correctly. It's not as volatile as a matchup that it used to be for Rek'Sai. Gotten a little bit better for Lee Sin.
Yep. Still top tier junglers or close enough to it. We've seen quite a lot this season, and that hasn't changed too much, even on the inclusion of the preseason patch. Evie's going to take his back up top. Meanwhile, Heliar had already done that and picks up Abami Cinder. He's going to be doing a little bit more damage to those waves as teleport gets spent both sides.
Yeah, and this is the big thing. The fact that Heliar uses his teleport even though he had a window where he could have walked back to lane because the wave was pushing forward. He chooses to force the wave forward, getting the teleport out of Evie, and I actually think that's more important.
Plugo, he's got no flash. Syros is on top of him, and he just keeps pounding him into the ground. That's first blood, and Syros just catches Plugo.
Yeah, we'll continue our point on top lane, but that is just Syros. Hold on, though.
Heliar, nice steadfast presence, interrupts.
I was expecting Lee Sin might participate in that since he's sitting at Krugs, but he's fine.
Yeah, Tussle dropped the ball for a sec.
Okay, but Originally, the reason why this is good is because the Nautilus level 6 is going to mean more than the Poppy level 6 in terms of how they're going to use their ultimates bottom, especially with that Ashe. You're going to be much more scared about a targetable CC TPing down there and ruining your bot lane's day. So that's why I think it's smart from Hellier, the captain, to force Evie to use his teleport top to alleviate some of that pressure from the bottom lane.
Right, and it removes a little bit of the tempo. We talked about this mid lane matchup being potentially lopsided. You could see the difference right there. Without his flash, Plugo was a sitting duck inside of the miasma, and Siros just ripped him in half.
I mean, it doesn't help that you're just, you know, eyeing Cassiopeia just straight down the barrel there.
Yeah, didn't even need to use the ultimate. I actually didn't think I had it at that point. Tussle is going to be making his way into the jungle once again.
He's looking for deep vision.
Okay, he does get Scryer's Bloom off and spies nothing there. Instead trying to grab a few camps on the other side, but Kratos is down to the bottom of his jungle.
But this is more punishing than it used to be. Again, the spawn timers were changed, so from 100 seconds to 150. And really what that does is it opens up more windows technically for gank paths, and it tries to nerf a bit more of the power farming junglers just because they can't continuously go back to camps. But Tussle has actually set a trap here. Not only will these be punishing for Kratos because he has to wait that much longer to get the gold, but he's also about to face check into Lee Sin.
Right into it, gets the Unburrow, and now Tussle is the name of the game, as he might get caught between him and Plugo. Rune Prison, but in goes Saros. Not need to fight. Every single time Evie is here, this guy has got the game sense.
And that's why they chose to continue with the play anyway. Tussle goes in early, he lays down the triangle vision. Evie has control of the wave, but not control of the wall.
Yeah, he gets banged right into it, and now Kratos is double teaming with Helior. Evie's going to be on the run. Tussle's incoming, he gets the hook, and Steadfast Presence interrupt. Low health bars though, flashing in. Queen's Wrath, who's gonna get the kill here? Evie is incredibly low, but they're just walking away. The buckler gets it, and Helior picks up a double with style.
Double kill for the captain there. Now Helior and Kratos will be playing on a team next year, but nice flash.
Whoa. Okay, Dara, he was seeing red, but Plugo just off cooldown is able to get back under tower.
But Saros did punish the last time the flash was down, so has another opportunity to do so. We think you're cute, Dara.
Always, every time. All right, so he's back to lane now.
That skin is loud.
It is a really loud skin. Okay, let's check in on what's been going on with our bottom lane, or dual lane, I should say. Big lead for Wara, obviously.
Big lead.
But
that's
there's
how
the
we're going to
BF
sum
Sword
it up.
Ashe. Big lead, yes.
That is a 20 CS lead.
I am very articulate when it comes to talking about leads.
But this is the bigger lead. So, unfortunately for Evie, he loses track of Helior. Helior walks into Fog of War. He just shouldn't have... there's no reason to walk up that river right there. Tussle tries to come back, but he's delayed on there. It was actually a really good interrupt from Kratos. And again, these two guys are going to be on a team. They're going to be on Team Legacy next year in their home region. They're considered the best top laner as well as the best jungler. This tournament was very cool for fans because it was kind of the taste tester, if you will, to see how they would perform together. And yeah, we said that it was all going to be about Wara in the bot lane, but his job is just to sit there and farm. If you can get your top laner ahead, you automatically win bot lane anytime that teleport is up.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing about Helior is that he's not typically known as a super flashy player, but you got to hand it to him. That play,
calculating.
Yeah, he turns and smacks the hammer as the buckler's going and just nails that sweet double. So it's 2-1 as we approach 10 minutes into this game, and a well-earned 1,000 gold lead for Latin America South.
You just need to think of Helior as kind of your primary facilitator. His name is the captain. You see that on and off the rift, and now they're setting up another play for him as here comes the Rune Warp.
He comes right in. That's a double team. Evie now is finding himself in a little bit of trouble. Burns his flash, but Helior just dashes right into the tower. They're going to tank this through, and Plugo picks a kill.
And this is back-to-back games that they've prioritized. They first pick Poppy. So Helior having the confidence that he can take any matchup with that champion and having the execution to perform well on it. It's now Kratos.
He's even around the backside here.
I mean, he could try to go in for the steal, but he's got War behind him.
I think they might end up giving this one up, but if they can collapse, Tussle is low. There's a teleport. Cassiopeia secures the dragon, but the chase is on. Dara denies the Unburrow, and it looks like Fire going to get away with this one.
There's another teleport available, but Evie's just going to walk up into the top lane. I think it's a mistake for Latin America South to execute on that TP. I think you conserve the cooldown there, so there's now a window for Team Flyer that they can punish Ice here because they have the global advantage with Evie's TP.
So Evie does have the TP build. Let's take a look at that one more time, and up in the top side, Helior was on Evie, but what he didn't know was that the Rise was coming for him.
And it's funny, too, because Plugo just pretty much uses that as a gap closer. He doesn't even dodge any wards with it, but it is enough, but primarily on Helior, making sure that he's finding these key and crucial stuns. You know, he stunned Evie initially against the wall, finds him that time against the tower.
Critically, Plugo gets the gold for that kill, and since he's been behind so much in CS, this is really beneficial for him. So it'll help him keep pace with Saros right now, who's already completed the Abyssal Scepter. Klados up in the top is going to clear the control ward away. Spotted, of course, by Evie, and is going to respect that distance.
Yep, also helps reactivate safety vision for Hellier there. The fact that his ward is now means something in that tri-brush.
Yeah, big changes with the control wards here as Dara and Hereti
This is dangerous.
will be chasing
the arrow.
The ward. Arrow could come any moment.
Wow.
But respecting the volley, Baron Wara.
So
Wara
much
just goes in
respect.
again.
And here's the fact, Hereti and Dara have vision and information that Klatos is on the top side, so they know the jungler isn't there. But the fact that Dara's under half health and just how much respect they're giving to Wara and Bear right now, I thought for sure it was going to be the arrow.
And it tells the story, too, to Latin America South that Tussle is not around because they could be playing with that information. They could be playing much more confidently, but Hereti and Dara are not looking to tango with Wara and Bear.
Someone who is looking to tango, though.
Yeah, Saros is always gunning for something.
He's got complete control over the mid lane, which means that they now have the advantage of going what I'm going to call the Silk Road. Basically, you start out on the Raptor camp and it feeds all the way down into bot lane. If you secure this with vision or you can control this path, you pretty much get access to Dragon bot lane tower as well as these setup plays.
Oh boy, and here's why it's called the Silk Road, because there's a lot of trade going on. Tussle kicks Klados right into Dara. Bear's incoming.
There's the arrow.
It's gonna land, and Klados is a sitting duck. Bear gets the heal way too late. Tussle picks a kill for himself, and just like that, the LJL have equalized on kills.
It's not done yet. Dara does have ultimate. They could look to dive this. War is in a lot of trouble.
Wara might think he can go in and finish off already.
He's trying to chip them
pot
individually, yeah. And no one's pushing the wave into the tower. Dara has to get in position and tank this for his team. He might have bought himself enough time.
Oh man, Dara goes in for the headbutt pull. Exhaust is on the flashes, burn flash.
He dodged
They
one.
can't get the lead.
He dodged two.
But Wara's still going down, and they juggle the aggro effectively.
Okay, took a little bit too
Klados,
long,
what
though.
are you doing? Oh my god, he gets the flash, three-man unburrow. Tussle is gonna flash away, smites the Krugs! And Klados is just running now. He tried, I'll give him that.
Wara with his best fancy footwork can't catch them. Oh, wait.
Bear's gonna try though.
Look at Hellier.
Hellier is just marching down the bottom. Flash, tornado. They've got Dara, who's running away. The auto will finish the job, and Hereti is gonna get safe under tower, but is it gonna be safe? Hellier is looking to come
he's running in
for a heroic charge.
Good night, sweet
Steadfast presence, and goodbye, Ash. Auto attack finishes the kill, and Klados tanks it.
Okay, even though Wara doesn't get any assists throughout that entire exchange, I'm giving him MVP of this play. He lasted so long. So initially, it's a play set up by LJL. They execute on it brilliantly. They find Klados. They manage to take him down. Oh.
And that's all we got time for, because there's a flash rune prison.
Another wall.
Saros gets knocked right into the wall. He did not have any summoners to burn, and Hellier winds up the Poppycopter to deny that teleport effectiveness.
And there was that window where the LJL actually could play cross-map globally better than Latin America South. But joke's on them, because Hellier beat them to the punch, walking all the way down to get involved on the back half of that play.
Speaking of getting involved, Hellier has had ridiculous kill participation this game. Even though he's had, a misfire on a teleport, he has done so well. And Wara, down in this bottom lane, looks to secure first tower blood here. And they know Klados is here. Hereti, they have to respect this. The damage from Wara is too real. They're going to get it. So 15 minutes into this game, they're going to pull ahead in the lead. And Plugo's still taking pot shots mid.
I mean, I'm going to take some pot shots on the desk right now because I know that talking backstage, everyone's like, Japan's got this. This is an easy 2-0. And I've been watching these games. I was like, I understand that they lost in assassin mode, but this team looked so good.
Oh, dear. Plugo. As we say it, the gang squad comes for him.
But this is perfect. Latin America South, where they're strong, is in their macro play. How they identify the objectives, where they need to be on the map, and moving to the correct positions. LJL are so good at their mechanics. They're great at skirmishing. They're great at pulling off these little plays here. So we finally, it's like replay after replay.
Now we get to show it again, because you're right, Wara just lasted so long and burned so much from this enemy team. He gets his flash off, okay, but look at how much they invest to kill him.
He dodges both the Q as well as the volley through where he positions behind his creep wave, and it takes so long to kill him that his team is able to clean up on the back half.
And Klados died at the start of that fight, by the way. That's how long this whole engage was.
But the important thing is, again, the individual decision-making and the team decision-making from Latin America South compensate for the fact that they may not have the flashiest mechanics to keep up with the brute force strength of the LJL. Because Tussle, Dara, Saros, these guys are superstars when it comes to 1v1s.
I will tell you what, though, when you see these two styles match up, this is some good League of Legends. Hellier just knocks Hereti right into that wall. Klados perfect tanking. And yeah, it is It is macro versus the micro decisions, and it has been bloody. 6-5 in kills now. And nobody's even eyeballing that dragon, by the way. FLICKR gets some vision down here, but that's about it.
Well, when it comes down to macro play, now we have to look at what the summoners are available to us. The fact that FLICKR now has the teleport advantage over Evie, and again, the fact that Kratos got his hands on the Rek'Sai. I'm telling you, if you are in a 5v5 on Summoner's Rift against Latin America South, Kratos cannot have that champion. He is too influential on it. He is the shot caller of this team, and you cannot give him that much global pressure.
And that's the best part about this, too. Normally, in a regular, traditional best-of-3 or best of anything, you can see what your opponent does and ban that out the next game. Change up your pick and ban stratch. You can't do that in game number 2. They're playing assassin mode.
And that's where they might fall down as they did the first time.
Well, they have to win this game first if they want to make that a tie situation, but no speculating about that from us. And just take a look across the board as we're 17.5 odd minutes into this game. Who's looking really pretty right now? FLICKR, of course, working his way towards more defensive items. He has the Swifties, and that's come in so handy. Evie on the other side has done the same. But I think the real big difference is this mid. Still been a 20 CS discrepancy, but you can see Plugo looking a lot more comfortable, and he's also not opting to lane against Seros for the time being.
It's kind of like what their damage sets are going to be as soon as we break out into these 5v5s. Wara and Plugo are still kind of waiting for their tiers to take off and that full kind of mid-peaking itemization to come online for Ezreal and Ryze. But things do get a little bit hairy as we start looking to late game. You know, if Wara doesn't land all of his skill shots, he doesn't have the easy, consistent damage that Heretti does on the Ashe, things can go sideways because you're dealing with Cassiopeia and Ashe and Nautilus. A lot of those champions are going to do a lot of damage.
It's like you said in pick and ban. It's all about stacking that CC up and nailing a target, but it has been hard to catch Plugo. I think Wara is definitely somebody to look for. This is a guy that will always E in. He's like the opposite of Wei Zhao. Just giving you a little throwback there, I know.
The memories.
Yeah, Plugo's going to take out this tower, though. It is nice to see Latin America South shoving their advantage and able to nail down a few more turrets because they can, pound for pound right now, outplay if they match the lanes up correctly.
And again, it's about abusing the lane assignments. As soon as we prioritize taking down first tower bottom, we suddenly pick up our bot lane. They're now in the mid lane. That frees up Ryze to abuse the individual lane assignments up and top. And suddenly we've got 2 towers to 0 in favor of Latin America South.
Yeah, good news for LJL, though, is they're able to secure a little bit more vision. Scuttle Crab being taken away. Dara is going to find Bear and Wara.
Tussle is flirting with danger. It's my kind of Lee Sin player.
Oh, he's looking pretty good in this game. 3-1-1's a pretty respectable score, and all the same Tussle, he just wants to fight, but he has a window of effectiveness. He needs to start using it.
This is scary, though. This is like LJL's perfect. You can see Ashe and Nautilus. They're rushing here. They want to go for the fight.
Ashe here. Oh, it's going to nail Wara, and they pinball him to his death, and now the fight is on. Bear and Plugo trying desperately to run, but Helior has joined the fray, and he charges right into Dara. The Poppycopter winds up. They know they can't take this fight, and they have got to bail out. 1 kill so far, but back to the safety of tower they go.
That could have been worse, and it might get worse.
Why is he still fighting? The hook's going to land. They're going to keep going here. Evie takes a lot of damage, return damage, I should say, but Kratos is not healthy enough. He has to leave. FLICKR is still trying to defend this tower. This might be LJL's first.
No, they survived it. They weathered the storm. The LJL will not be able to find any sort of counter push on taking down the mid tower. That was super risky from Latin America South. They saw the chip damage on the mid tower. They thought that they had a big enough window to push it down. Tussle might find a table scraps, if you will, of taking away the red buff, but...
Yeah. It was a little bit greedy of Kratos to try and take that after the fight, but let's see it all again because Tussle waiting in the wings set this all up.
But again, the most important thing here is the fact that the tower is so low. That's why they're taking this gamble, because you know that LJL's only response is to make a big, crazy flanking play, and they have all of the CC, like that Ashe arrow, like the Nautilus ultimate, to pull that off. Unfortunately, Wara takes the ice arrow straight to the teeth. But fortunately for the rest of the team, Plugo is able to disengage them.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't just all fall down at that point because Wara, I mean, you could put a bowling strike sound in front of that animation and just watch it go. That was an insta-kill. They got the tower for it. So they have 3 towers to 0. LJL have not been able to find that gold, but you know, this is a guy playing blue Ezreal. He's going to want to kite back a little bit more in the future. Yeah,
we've seen a lot more of priority towards the Trinity Force Ezreal, especially because, yeah, you have the Ryze, but again, Plugo plays more as kind of a mage, supportive control player, so expect to see him use Ryze like that as opposed to kind of like a faker Ryze where he's forward, he's in your face, he's challenging you.
Oh, we've seen this before.
I don't think they're going to be able to get away with it.
They launched themselves over a la CIS style, and
They stop moving.
Latin America South don't have a clue. They did not get the Rek'Sai Tremor sense.
But they need to get
now they do.
Cassiopeia over there.
Ah, it was a nice try, guys. A little early to attempt. It's only 21.5 minutes.
They can do it as long as Seros is there, especially because he has the blue buff. Again, never underestimate Cassiopeia's epic monster shred, but unfortunately he wasn't part of the crew that got over with that blast cone.
Yeah, it was a nice attempt, but now they're wise to it. Again, let's take a look as we have a momentary lull in the action. 6-6, 22 minutes in. Bear's going to clear the control ward out of the back of Baron Pit. And there's a dragon apiece, but Latin America South have the objective-based one. As you can see, pings for LJL are looking for the top side. They still have yet to find a tower in this game.
But they need to understand that the LJL, the most important objective for them on the map, is going to be that mid tower. And they have, again, the options on their composition to break it. Hereti really should just be standing in Fog of War as opposed to matching up across from Rise and just trying to find one of those cheeky arrows down mid lane to help the LJL break that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be an arrow bot for a little while at least. He's very far behind Wara.
But he's out of position, that's the thing. He's clearing side lanes, and yes, you never want your Cassiopeia and your Ashe in the same lane because then they're denying farm and resources away from each other.
But the safe zones are disappearing. I mean, you could see the vision creep from Latin America South that's giving them dragon control here with 10 seconds on the next Drake to come up. And even though Tussle is doing his best to clear this out, they've got to be super careful if they want to try to contest for things like this.
Tussle is about to walk into a lot of people.
Yeah, he's going to need that Banshee's
going on
tail.
the back.
There we go. They're actually going to start this dragon off, but instantly Bear and Klados are right on their tail, and so is Helior.
But Plugo doesn't have teleport, so it is a 4v5 if Evie TP's down.
Yeah, and you can see Hereti already running for it. They are going to give this Drake up. The Miasma laid out the carpet that they didn't want to cross, so LJL do manage to secure themselves a little bit extra regeneration out of combat.
And again, now it's suddenly Latin America South that have the poor lane assignments.
Evie was abusing the tower and the Riptide! He can't quite close the distance. The shield, Plugo nearly bought it. That was so close.
He took a couple of extra tower shots.
I mean, he got an assist with the tower. That happens. Okay, Helior wants to fight here, and he's going to bang Tussle up against the wall. Steadfast presence, the Ash Arrow. He's going to sidestep it here. It just goes right through the uprights of Team Ice, and now they're going to try to turn this fight, but Wara, he almost get caught himself before he...
Someone's getting in the wall.
He's backwards. I think the Poppy is picking the target right now. Klados is right onto Tussle. Meanwhile, Evie front tanking. Hereti is trying to make the fight happen. Helior couldn't quite get onto the wall, but they do get a flash unburrow. Klados is getting knocked back into this one, and Bear's on the front. Tussle manages to find the fight before falling down. However, Wara is able to shut him down, and Seros is going on a rampage looking for Helior. He needs another Twin Fang. Can he secure it? The Ashe is able to pick that one up, and Dara now has gone in. This has gone pear-shaped for Latin America South, but Plugo's coming to the rescue. There's a lot of low health bars. And now Wara's gone down. It's going to be Seros. This fight just keeps on going. It's a 3v1. Plugo, what can he even do here? He's trying to sidestep, and no Rune Prison. He's going to get it now, and he is so low under tower. He gets one. He gets two. Oh, my goodness. Talk about making the best out of a bad situation, Frost.
Tower gets MVP for both teams right now. Latin America South, they've been outmaneuvering Japan across the map, but when it comes toe-to-toe, when it comes 5v5, Japan looked really good for a second until they tried to overdive.
They pushed their luck so hard on that, and Plugo, massive props for baiting them in and taking down two before getting equalized. We got to see that again. Here's how the whole thing started.
Okay, first and foremost, Helior has his ultimate the entirety of the fight, which is why Team Ice are so confident and continuing to chase, because they're like, we still have our primary disengage. We still have the Monsoon, we have the Poppy ultimate, so we're free to kind of continue to chip away at them. If they get too close, we'll reset the fight.
This is 4v5 too.
Yeah, because Plugo's not here. Look at it on your map. You can see he's actually running from base. So the problem is that the Cassiopeia ultimate locks up multiple people, and suddenly those disengage ultimates don't mean anything. Bear barely got the Monsoon off before he dies, and again, Helior has had his ultimate the entire time, and he dies without using it.
Yeah, he starts the windup, but then they just instantly pick him away. And Wara, look at him just trying to kite this whole thing out. But Plugo, he comes in, they instantly exhaust him. Wara somehow stays alive for a little while, and it becomes a 1v3. I mean, that was just wacky.
Problem is then they don't manage the correct tower aggro juggle. And speaking of that, I guess we're fighting again.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this still the replay? I think this is a completely different one, but it looks the same. Dara is getting chunked low, but he throws on his ultimate to stay alive. Helior finds Tussle in the back as Bear gets a 3-man knockup. We just keep on bumping around. Saros from around the side gets his ult, but FLICKR targets on him. And
War is in the back
is
line.
chased around the back, a double kill over to Plugo, and they are cleaning house on the LJL right now. A double kill for FLICKR. They finish the job. One for Wara, that's the ace, and it's Baron time.
And it suddenly looks so much better for Latin America South when they're able to use their Monsoon and their Poppy ultimate effectively right there. The fact that Wara got a hold of both Saros and Heretti in the backline, Japan just, their tanks failed them.
Yeah, this whole tournament we have seen the power of fire, but ice is not melted just yet. 27 minutes into this game, it's a big goal lead, and we're gonna start to see this fight.
All eyes really need to be on Wara. Now, he's sitting in mid lane right now, but he's going to join the back half of this fight, and he's going to do a lot of chip damage to Saros. And Saros, again, is so important for Japan. Not only is he the Cassiopeia, but he's their best mid laner. He's the Faker of Japan. If he goes down, things go sideways.
Yeah, he gets chased by Wara pretty much this whole fight if you see off screen in
This
the
is,
river, but
this is
a real
2v1
wall.
down in the river. Look at Saros, half health, takes the Ezreal ultimate. Now Easy's gonna come up behind him and just destroys him, obliterates him from the fight.
Wara just trains on him the whole time, and FLICKR at the end just kind of smashes him into the wall and takes the kill away. But yeah, at this point, it doesn't matter how tanky Evie is. The rest of his team's falling down around, and that Monsoon comes up clutch.
Yes.
It's good reactions.
I love the cheers.
These guys are happy to be here. You talk about
They're loud
LJL
behind
having
us.
fun. Yeah, Latin America South, they're having some fun too. How about winning this game so far? We're getting 28 minutes into the game. It's a big gold lead right now. It's creeped up to about 6K. There's another Mountain Drake spawning in a minute and a half. All they got to do on Latin America's South side is just keep on pushing these tower leads. LJL still have yet to pick one up.
I'm telling you, people were saying, you know, Turkey, they've got the best macro strategy in this tournament from the one 5v5 that we've seen. I'm like, no, I think it's Latin America South. Kratos just looked so good on this Rek'Sai. He's known throughout his region as being the best shot caller in the region by the community and his peers alike. You can see that he's always going to be the first person into a team fight. He's always going to be setting up a wave. And again, that's why I think Rek'Sai is such a coveted pick for him. It allows him so much control over so many different assets of the game.
But not only that, FLICKR is also doing exactly what he did against Southeast Asia. And he's just come up really big, with the exception of the fight where he dies with his ult still available. He's constantly threatening, and he just fits the puzzle piece that the team needs to finish these fights. And here we go again.
They
Not gonna actually use it, but they got the tower.
They have the right idea more often than not. Where they fall down is in misexecution. But as long as you're still doing the right thing, better than doing the wrong thing than executing on it well. The thing is when Japan win fights, they either overcommit and the fight means nothing, or the victory means nothing, or they win fights and they're not able to translate that into objectives. You think about the red buff bot skirmish. They technically won that fight, but what did it mean for them? They weren't able to take a tower off of it. They weren't able to siege a dragon or to take a baron.
Speaking of Dragon, now that Latin America South have got so much vision control and have forced LJL back into their base, that one is an easy, uncontested take, and they get even more damage to knock down the objectives, and Japan's running out of towers here.
But they have the ones that still matter, and they have a lot of wave clear. It's still always going to be very scary to dive both in Alistar, Nautilus, and Cassiopeia. They have great wave clear in the Cassie as well as the Ashe. So they're going to, Latin America South are going to need these two Mountain Dragons and probably another rotation of Baron before they feel really confident pushing into Japan's inhibitor line.
Yeah, it's true, but Japan are definitely going to have to play a lot more conservative and not try to push too far out of their base and outside of their vision zone.
But what this means is even though Japan are behind in the game by close to 10K, that they have kind of this 6-minute window between the next kind of Baron spawn, it's probably closer to 7 at this point because Baron's still alive, of turning the game around, you know, setting up their vision, getting another chance, finding that another pick. And again, they have so many tools to do that, like the Ashe Arrow on their comp. So Japan are still very much in this, as long as they don't lose here. Maybe give up an inhibitor. I don't think they'll need to if things look scary, but they've got another 10 minutes left in them to turn this game around.
And a lot of it's going to be off the back of Saros. I think, like you said earlier, he needs to basically be the one who's dishing out the consistent damage in the fight. It's not Heretti. Heretti's going to be setting up those engages. If they can properly protect Saros with Tussle, with Evie, they can win fights still.
But ultimately, I actually think that means the responsibility's on Tussle, on Dara, on Heretti, and Saros just needs to be that follow-up. But Heretti with that Ashe Arrow, you know, we said that this is a weakness that Latin America South could exploit in the individual matchup. He needs to step up now, and he needs to find that key arrow on Wara, on Plugo. He found it once.
Yeah, you can see that the LJL are definitely going for that protect your big carry kind of build. You can see the redemption's been finished on Dara right now. Obviously, he has his own Seraphs. Seros does to, you know, keep himself alive a little bit longer, but you got to be really, really careful and save your summoner spells for those big situations. And we'll see how it happens as Hereti's trying to defend topside. They are being pulled apart by Latin America South.
They're just pushing farm into them right now. Again, I still think this game probably has between 10 and 15 minutes left in it. Japan are very much still in this, especially if they get a good 5v5. And really, Latin America South are playing the split push pressure game. They don't want to commit to one thing because, again, diving is still going to be very scary. It's just, you know, find the chip damage where you can. If you can get a pick, take it. But slowly pulling them apart at the seams as opposed to just bashing them in.
Yep, although Wara
he's good.
Cannot dodge the dredge line forever, but he does get out of range, so there's no retaliation available. Helior just keeps on pushing the wave in the bottom side, but they've really done their job up top when they just keep pecking away at this turret. But you can see that the LJL is responding very quickly. They realize this is the choice target.
Because Latin America South need to keep LJL within the confines of their base. We're now on the 1 minute 30 warning for Baron, and the longer that they can keep the LJL trapped in here, the less time the LJL have to kind of set up a counter defense. You know, setting up their vision around Baron, trying to make it advantageous for them to contest that objective.
I definitely want to go back to Helior for just a minute because he's been so critical to denying a lot of these fights. You see every single time Tussle gets anywhere near him, he throws in the steadfast presence. He knows he can deny the big kick backwards. That's why we haven't seen Tussle be able to make these hero Lee Sin plays this game. As Helior gets the windup.
They're going to siege this.
Teleport. They might be able to cancel it. They will, in fact, do that. And Dara now is in the thick of things, and he is running out of health very fast. He might have the Unbreakable Will on, but it may not matter. The redemption is enough to keep him alive, but now the inhibitor is under fire. Seros threatening, chasing them away. They do not want to commit, but they got what they came for, and Plugo gets hooked. Tussle is looking for the kick backwards. He finds it onto Plugo, but they can't finish him off. He's going to flash into the Monsoon. Hereti finishes the job with an auto attack, and now Evie is looking to make this bigger. Tussle takes out Bear, finishes the job, and Klados is going to fall. The LJL have done it. They managed to get a fight they need here, and Dara goes in. A big flash headbutt, Pove, a double kill for Seros, and it is only Helior left.
Disaster for Latin America South. The thing that I'm looking at right now is the fact that Baron is 15 seconds from spawning. Helior, yes, he's still alive. Yes, he has his teleport, but you're looking at 30 seconds before Klatos is up. Does he even have any tunnels? He'd have to walk from spawn.
Oh, wow. Evie just gets pushed back. Helior still wants to try and deny this, but there are such long death timers. 15 seconds on Plugo. Bear is the only one here.
He has his ultimate. He can knock them off the Baron.
He finished this, though. Seros is tanking right now. The windup is there. The Poppycopter is going to send two flying. Dara and Hereti, they can't finish this on their own. Helior looks like he may have done it, and he's chasing down Hereti. Look at the damage that this Poppy is pushing out, but the rest of the team has arrived. He might have just bought enough time. He goes down, but guess what? You got to shred through the Guardian Angel, and meanwhile, Klados has ulted back to mid. They stopped it.
Disaster for Latin America South, but the hero that they need, the captain up in the top lane, Helior. What a great Poppy ultimate. The fact that he disengages the two correct members of getting the Cassiopeia and the Lee Sin out of the pit so that Ashe is left to tank the Baron, single-handedly saved them.
100% of the way, and now it is Latin America South that have control of the Baron pit. The LJL may have won a fight, but they still could not get anything. They've still got no towers, Frostgurren. We're 35 minutes in.
It's fine, because at this point, if they win the Baron, if they win the Elder Drake, if they win a big 5v5, they're strong enough that that 0 tower will automatically become 3 towers.
Probably I hope so, because it looks like they're allergic to him otherwise. LJL's going to try and force this Baron. Look at, they've actually caught it out of position. This is going to be a good for them.
Here's the scary thing, is how quickly they'll burn this. Okay, they've got the TP.
Waiting for Helior. Okay, looks like they can try to take this fight. Helior a little bit low, and he does not want to commit, but they've caught him in. Plugo's around the backside. They just need to buy some time for him, and he knocks a bunch out before he goes down. Plugo looking for the flank, straight on to Seros, who ults away, but Seros has managed to stay alive. Tussle has found Plugo to finish the job, and all of a sudden, the team-fighting prowess of the LJL just comes up huge. Wara is kiting and running and trying to keep himself alive. Tussle has not gone down just yet. Wara is actually keeping them all on the back foot.
He arcade shifted Alistair's animation of the headbutt.
You have got to be kidding me. And he's going to rejoin Bear in the mid. Now there's a teleport. These fights just do not stop.
This is hilarious. Okay, I hope we get a replay of that team fight, because there's one person that I want to point out in particular. Klados, are you crazy?
Apparently.
He's nuts.
Yeah, but they brought Baron Wara here. They're shredding through this. Are they going to trade an Elder for Baron?
This is still nuts.
There's a massive mini-wave topside. This is so dangerous for Japan.
Okay, so we don't often get to see these types of trades happen. But the problem is the wave clear on Latin America South is still fairly weak. It's a little bit better just because Ezreal decided to go for the Iceborne Gauntlet, but before we get to that, I want everyone to pay attention to Plugo here, because Plugo's really what cost Latin America South this fight. And better than that, the fact that Team Fire know how to team fight so well. Sarah sitting just right in the back on that Cassiopeia, protecting Heretti, knowing his responsibility. Plugo finally comes around the side to get involved in the fight, but it's too little too late. For so long, that Ryze wasn't doing anything, contributing nothing to that fight. As soon as he walks in, he just gets blown up, and it's simply through the mechanical prowess of Wara, especially that arcane shift there, that Latin America South are able to get any sort of trade in that engagement.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, back into the live game. Look at the damage that fight. Wara was the reason they didn't lose it all, and Bear, he might lose his health right now.
No. The only number you have to pay attention to is 367. Ryze did less damage than Janna.
Not great that time around, but this may be a different story as Evie gets caught and has to tank a lot of damage. They've knocked him into the wall, but they can't finish him off. Redemption is coming up huge for both of these teams this game. That's Dara's spent, and that's a half-health inhibitor. Baron minions versus double Mountain Drake Elder.
Dragon changes did come through on 6.23, so they've got a bit more room to work with on this buff.
They're not going to go for it, though. Japan have defended. It's such a tense moment when you're working with these two big, powerful buffs.
I think they're effectively going to neutralize each other. That would have been bad.
Yeah, Wara has had some of the quickest reaction timings that I have seen in a long time. Very impressive play from this guy. Even when the fights look lost, he's able to still come up with something. He almost got 2 picks there.
And he wasn't initially the guy voted in, and now I'm just like, Latin America South, why not? This guy's so good.
He's a rookie. This was his first competitive split in the summer of 2016. And yeah, he was the 3rd voted guy. Well, I bet they're pretty happy he's here now.
I would be. They built, the first time they were on 5v5, they built a composition around his Vayne. He shows up in assassin mode. You know, true, they played an 80 carry. He is the actual 80 carry.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy stuff. Excuse me, I was talking about Plugo, my bad. Wara's the guy that roll swap from being a mid laner, so there's your mechanics.
It's still hard to roll swap from being a mid laner and then be recognized as one of the best 80 carries in your region.
Yeah, it's a big deal for him. And I think he's shown, like, you can look at Vayne and, like, okay, a Vayne game, he goes off, they did to protect the comp, and that's still impressive. But you think, okay, does he have any other tricks? He looks so good on this Ezreal. It makes you wonder why he even bothered with the Vayne in the first place.
Kratos was looking like he was wanting a flank.
He was just taking a scenic tour. We're 40 minutes just about into this game. This is one of the longest we have had in this tournament so far.
The thing is again, the Elder Drake and the Baron buff really neutralized themselves as far as, you know, the objectives that would fall down on the map. So again, we're now in another scenario where the LJL might be able to chip away this tower. I would certainly give it away if I was Latin America South.
They need the gold at this point. Let them have it. Deposit into their bank accounts. It's going to start earning interest for them.
But this
LJL
means
get 1.
that we're now looking towards the next respawn of these epic monsters. Although Rune Warp is pulling Plugo somewhere.
I'm not sure where. He just disappeared.
I think he just went
he's back to mid.
Back in the mid lane.
He juked us both.
Juke the observers.
All right, the question is, do Latin America South want to fight here? Because they seem 50-50. Tussle is not with the LJL team.
It's more so that they have the inside track on the mid lane, so they're forcing the LJL to respond. They may actually be able to just burn through the tower, depending on how much damage they just brute force do to it. Again, the tower reduction is coming through right now because they don't have any creeps.
No, and Helior narrowly dodges away from the dredge line of Evie, who's chasing down. Clearly, the LJL want this fight, and with Tussle rejoining them, the 5v5 could get hairy.
But it's cute little things like this, Latin America South, you know, showing that they understand how to play with creep waves and different pressure points on the map. They understand that this is still an incredibly terrifying 5v5 across from them, especially when they're that far forward up a lane, and Asher would be very punishing. But just constantly trying to cheat their way across the map, just creating these small advantages by getting to a wave faster, by setting up a big push faster.
Yeah, and it's evened out so much over the course of this game, because we saw Latin America South getting out to a flying start, really, and winning in every lane but the mid. But now that you're getting close to max items, it just doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, what put them in this position, this was their game to win, but they got greedy, they got impatient, and they overstayed when trying to put down that top inhibitor that really allowed Japan to get their foot back into this game. Otherwise, this should have been done and done. This was a 10K gold lead for Latin America South, and now we're to the point in the game where the gold discrepancy doesn't matter at all. Not only has it almost completely closed or been cut in half, but everyone's on their core itemization, everyone's approaching 6 items, so Latin America South, you had it and you gave it away.
Yeah, and I think the Baron is going to be a big tipping point in this game. Once again, it's a minute and a half out. You can see that Latin America South just continually trying to push those waves and keep the vision control on their side of the map. But there's a few deep boards here for the LJL. They just keep on moving in and grabbing a bit back for themselves. Such a close game with 17-16 in the kill department, and the fights have definitely been going Japan's way.
This is where control wards get pretty broken, however. The fact that all of our ward spots have been pretty much eaten away by different ingredients or completed item builds. That you're pretty much entirely reliant on just the support sight stone as well as your 3 control wards that they can hold, and the fact that it also cancels out vision from sight wards. This is kind of where the control wards were meant to shine, is in these late game scenarios where your vision options are limited due to slot space. So keep your eyes on how Bear will maneuver those and if they're going to set them up to deny Baron.
And Bear has come up very, very clutch. We talk about his macro decision making, but in those fights, you have to give this man credit. He's clearly in his element on the Janna, and he has had some really, really, really big tornadoes.
Bear is here because he's lovable.
Yes.
That's
gives you warm fuzzies.
No, that's why he's a fan favorite support. He's not recognized as, you know, being the best support in his region.
He is a very experienced player though, and again, he's on a comfortable champion like the Janna.
Well, obviously to be a popular player in your region, typically you are a veteran, you've been around for a long time, but everyone that I've talked to and like, okay, so tell me about Bear, they're like, he's just really lovable.
Well, they certainly are loving him right now, and now Tussle is caught in the middle of it all. And he gets his Guardian Angel popped. Helior is trying to send everybody back, and now without friends, Tussle's gone down, and Bear picks that kill up for himself, so he's got claws too.
That's the jungler, and maybe more. Saros is now in trouble.
Realm Warp, and Saros is isolated from his team. They're just pushing him apart. He's going to flash. He's going to burn everything, and he can't get enough. Shutdown. Wara has found him, and now it is 2 kills to 0. Helior is buying all the time in the world. He flashes, he dashes, Evie gets the knock-up, but Helior is standing firm, and this could be the end for the LJL in Game 1.
They've lost their primary disengage, and it's really only Heretti available that can clear the waves. I think they're about to get smothered out. I think Latin America South are taking Game 1.
Those 2 dragons are coming in handy right now, and Helior keeps on tanking all the damage. Redemption coming up already. Force backed up Fountain, and it's only Evie who's standing outside of it. Plugo might get caught here, but they just don't give a damn anymore. They're on the tower, but they do lose Plugo. Teleport on Helior to try and keep the minion alive and tanking. They finished the last tower, but Tussle is about to come up, and it is focus on the champions, but they gotta hit the Nexus. They're gonna do it. 44.5 in, and it was a nail biter, but Latin America South with a win.
They had control from minute 1 for 99% of the game. It was simply a misstep when they went to push the top inhibitor that Japan got their foot back into it. But Latin America South, they're patient, they slow it down, they reset the map, and they claim their rightful victory.
I'll tell you what, it looked like it was all Team Fire in this tournament, but Latin America South proving that they do deserve to be in this stage. 1-3 over a couple of days, but that is a big statement against a previously unbeaten team.
The scary thing, though, is that this is where Latin America are South. They compensate for kind of maybe some shakier 1v1 mechanical ability against some of the other regions here by having great macro strategy demonstrated on 5v5. Against Assassin mode, we saw how Japan tore them apart, and that's what's up next.
Yeah, they're going to have to come up with some new tricks and, you know, maybe prepare for that Diana from Saros, but that's a whole nother game mode. What a ridiculous 45 minutes that we had of that one, and it was so close at the end.
This is to be expected. Again, they're very well, again, whole props to Kratos. This is what Kratos is known for. He is definitively the best jungler in the region, and it's because of his shot calling opinion. When I was talking to their esports coordinator, he was just like, you know, the region's not great on macro strength, but Kratos has defined himself as the best in the region because he seems to be the only guy in the region that understands where we need to be and win. And that's, you know, on Rek'Sai, that's really what was the pin for them.
Yeah, I mean, he was everywhere he needed to be, and you know, it's kind of a big statement when you're able to pretty much outposition Tussle. 9 times out of 10. Massive props to that guy. Helior came up big. The whole team really did play like a well-oiled unit, though, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, and then you also have to underline Plugo and Wara. Plugo did his job, had a couple of shaky 5v5s. There's definitely room to exploit and to take Latin America South down there, but Wara's looking great.
Absolutely. We'll see what they're looking up next, because Latin America South is 1 up in this crazy best of 3. We're going to head over to the analyst desk to break down how it all happened.
Thank you very much, Pyra. That was an absolutely insane game. But before we start to look towards the end, I want to take it back to the beginning and give Latin America North a lot of praise, or South rather. Sorry, for how they played out that early game.
My predictions suck. Like, I start off by being like, oh, Japan 2-0, this shouldn't be difficult for them. I feel like LAS have been overhyped, and they came in and they have a spectacular game 1.
Early laning phase seemed really strong. War Angels, we were questioning whether or not the Vayne game was sort of a fluke, but we did see a lot of success in the early laning phase. But then, while the lane was good, this was kind of the big starting point for the side of Latin America South, was this Ryze getting top.
Here's where I was saying, like, this is what Ryze can do, right? You can go from mid to top in like 1 second. You can go from mid to bottom in like 1 second. It's like a better version of TF in some strange way, because you can like tank towers better. Your CC is a bit more consistent, and there's less things that can outplay you, you know?
It's true, and we were really skeptical about giving the Poppy the attention, right? You have a tank v tank top lane. Not a whole lot's going to change even if Poppy does get a lead, but it did seem to work out really well for the team overall.
Yeah, because Helior's a god. That's why. He was just going in that game. He actually just
play
went
like a
in.
god, yeah.
He did. Like, we saw crazy sidesteps from him. He was roaming all the time. He just comes into the bot lane. It's just like, okay, this one wasn't like not necessarily the showiest of skills. He just
I love
spammed
this one
against the
because
wall.
it's a show of place. He went from mid. He went mid. He forced Cassio's flash. He went bot, got that kill bot, and now we saw mid how he like flashed in on mid because he just forced his flash. So he like went from he just carried every lane.
We watched him
everywhere. He
literally
went top and like mid bot. Okay, guys, I won every lane now. Carry me.
And well, I mean, the plays didn't stop there from Helior. Of course, as we got into the mid game, the playmaking did get a little bit sloppier. But when we saw that Baron attempt come in, Helior, one-man hero. So frequently we see the lone man walk in for the desperate steal, die, and fall on his face. But Helior setting a new standard for Baron Protects.
The thing is, he hit just the right targets too, because he was able to get Cassio out, who's the main damage dealer. He could use the Baron to force Hereti back, and he was nearly able to get the kill if it wasn't for the fact that the Blast plant was there to help both the Nautilus and the Cassio get back into the pit. And after the GA is popped, they have to disengage because they realize from the death times that they don't have enough time to commit. So Helior had a fantastic performance keeping their team's hopes alive.
And while it was a little less than clean for the rest of the game, we did have one final amazing fight to come out for Latin America to really help them close out this game and move 1 up in the series.
It was so anticlimactic here, though, how after all this game, after so many minutes of playing, how you just get caught and the game is over. It's such a bad feeling to have as a player when you are the one that's getting caught. And yeah, it just sucks to watch. I feel so horrible just watching it.
Yeah. The biggest thing here, though, is because you look at LAS and their macro was significantly better than their micro in this game, but next game mode is Assassins. All of it is going to be fights constantly. So there's actually a really good chance that Japan actually take the next game. We go to our third match would be 1v1. So I will be happy because I get to talk about 1v1s, but I think there's a very good chance we go to 3 here.
So I'm curious, after that game, do you gentlemen still think that, or Vedius, let's start with you since you were the first one to make a bold prediction, do you still think Japan can pull this out, or is it going to be Latin America South?
I definitely feel like the ball is in Japan's court. Simply from what we saw yesterday, they had really good understanding of how to build a very solid assassin comp, and I think they'll do the same again.
Pulse?
We're mechanics based from here on out pretty much for the most part, so 2-1 Japan.
And how about you, Mithy?
I'm gonna route for the Hispanos. You know, I'm just gonna go in there. I think they played phenomenally well the early game on game 1. And yeah, sure, there's no assassin. There were not many assassins, if not any assassin at all on game 1. But I trust them. I'm gonna go with them.
All right, well, we're gonna have to see when we take a quick break. When we come back, we'll return to the Rift. But it's gonna be all assassins all the time. Don't go anywhere. It's about to be a doozy. Doozy.
Plugo, he's got no flash. Zeros is on top of him, and he just keeps pounding him into the ground. Flashing in. Queen's Wrath, who's going to get the kill here? Evie is incredibly low, but they're just walking away. The Buckler gets it, and Helior picks up a double for a heroic charge.
Good night, sweet
Steadfast presence, and goodbye, Ash.
Here, they want to go for the fight.
Ash here, oh, it's going to nail War, and they pinball him to his death, and now the fight is on, and he is so low under tower. He gets 1, he gets 2. Oh my goodness. And it is focus on the champions, but they gotta hit the Nexus. They're gonna do it. 44.5 in, and it was a nail biter.